Good morning, everyone. Good morning. The time for convening has arrived. The Senate will come to order. All unauthorized personnel, please exit the chamber at this time. Recognize the senator from the 6th to give us a report of the journal.
Good morning, Mr. President. It's good to be back. I hope you missed me. I know you did. Mr. President, we got a lot of great pages here from all over this great state. Out of Beaufort, we have a Lauren Adamson from Cumming, Arjun Ananda from Cumming, Madhubalan IR from Houston, Eleanor Chung from Pine Mountain, Madeline Frost from Union City, Ileana Gibson from Clarksville, John Carter Kale. From Sewanee was Sheke Karaba. From Marietta, we have a sister and brother in Bella and Jacob Lala. From Atlanta, Miriam Magani. From Atlanta, Zade McCoy. From Valdosta, Arthur Monroe. From Cumming, Adrith Pengali. From Homerville, Emmeline Register. From Atlanta, Dara Reyes. From Lake Park, Chloe Rogers. From Dublin, Sisters Margot and Sloan Sellers. From Thompson, Georgia, we have Windsor Smith. And from Jessup Jackson Thomaston. And from Homerville, we have Carly Tomlinson. Y'all give our pages a big round of applause. We appreciate you being here to serve the great people of the great state of Georgia. Mr. President, in my absence, y'all did a lot of work on Friday. Therefore, the journal is thick, but it has been read and found to be correct. So I move we dispense with the reading of the journal.
All right. Thank you, Senator. Thank you for the pages that are here today. And we did miss you on Friday, Senator. We did. Just wasn't the same without you. Is there objections for the dispensing of the reading of the journal? Chair here is done. The reading of the journal is dispensed with. Is there objections to confirmation of the journal? Hearing none, the journal is confirmed. All senators who have bills and resolutions introduced, please bring them to the Secretary's desk at this time. First reading references Senate bills. Mr. Secretary.
Senate Bill 629 by Senator Anna Vitarte of the 31st and
State and local government.
Senate Bill 630 by Senator Anna Vitarte of the 31st. A bill to be
State and local government.
Mr. President, that completes the order.
First reading references the House bills.
House Bill 1485 by Representatives Gunter of the 8th and others. A bill to be entitled.
State and local government.
House Bill 1487 by Representatives Anderson of the 10th.
State and local government.
House Bill 1489 by Representatives Baker of the 64th.
State and local government.
House Bill 1519 by Representatives Bonner of the 73rd
State
and others.
local government.
House Bill 1523 by Representatives Chokis of the 151st and others. A bill
State
to
local government.
House Bill 1529 by Representative Efstration of the 104th.
State local government.
House Bill 1526 by Representative Green of the 154th.
State and local government.
House Bill 1528 by Representative Powell of the 33rd.
State and local government.
House Bill 1529 by Representative Powell of the 33rd. A bill to be entitled.
State and local government.
House Bill 1531 by Representatives Jasper of the 11th and others.
State and local government.
House Bill 1532 by Representatives Carpenter of the 4th and others. House Bill 1533 by Representatives Carpenter of the 4th and others. A bill
State and local government.
House Bill 1539 by Representatives Burchett of the
State and local government.
House Bill 1540 by Representatives Burchett of the 176th.
State and local government.
House Bill 1541 by Representatives Burchett of the 100th.
State and local government.
House Bill 1545 by Representatives Rhodes of the 124th.
State and local government.
House Bill 1547 by Representatives Williams of the 168th.
State and local government.
Mr. President, that completes the order.
Secretary will read reports of standing committees.
Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Economic Development and Tourism has had under consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation. House Bill 718, due pass by substitute. Senate Resolution 882, due pass by substitute. House Bill 1310, due pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Eccles of the 45th District Chairman. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Rules has had under consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation. House Bill 1328, due pass by substitute. Pursuant to Senate Rule 2-1.10b, the Committee on Rules has referred the following legislation from the general calendar. House Bill 1077 to the Committee on Rules. House Bill 1129 to the Committee on Rules. Respectfully submitted, Senator Watson of the 1st District, Vice Chairman. Mr. President, that completes the order.
Secretary, read resolutions just a second time.
Senate Resolution 432 by Senator Harrell of the 40th and others. Senate Higher Education in Prison Study Committee, create. Senate Resolution 834 by Senator Rahman of the 5th and others. Bangladeshi peacekeepers in United Nations peacekeeping operations, recognize. Senate Resolution 882 by Senator Robertson of the 29th and others. Department of Community Affairs to refrain from adopting the 2024 International Energy Conservation Code in order to protect housing affordability and maintain the current energy code framework of the state. Urge. House Bill 87 by Representative Clark of the 100th and others. Insurance require health benefit policy coverage for medically necessary orthotic and prosthetic devices and their materials and components. House Bill 267 by Representatives Bonner of the 73rd and others. Riley Gaines Act, enact. House Bill 323 by Representative Matayek of the 82nd and others. Bridging the Gap for ALS and Chronic Kidney Disease Act of 2025, enact. House Bill 328 by Representatives Carpenter of the 4th and others. Revenue and taxation, increase annual aggregate limit for tax credits available for certain contributions to student scholarship organizations. House Bill 369 by Representative Sharper of the 177th and others. Motor vehicles, sale of food or beverages, provide vehicle equipment standards. House Bill 583 by Representatives Glaze of the 67th and others. Motor vehicles, increased number of free license plates issued to certain veterans. House Bill 634 by Representatives Barrett of the 24th and others. Georgia Special Needs Scholarship Act, expedited completion of a student's first individualized education program, revised provisions. House Bill 641 by Representatives Lim of the 98th and others. Public utilities require electric supplier to hold the proposed discontinuation of electrical service to a residential customer who suffers from a serious illness in abeyance for a certain period of time. House Bill 676 by Representatives Clifton of the 131st and others. Property fine for any frivolous mechanic lien filed, provide. House Bill 718 by Representative Jones of the 60th and Women's Golf Week, first week of April each year, provide. House Bill 963 by Representatives Martin of the 49th and others. Elections prohibit foreign nationals from contributing or participating in any campaign. House Bill 1015 by Representatives Werkheiser of the 157th. Self-Insurers Guaranteed Trust Fund, revise certain funded levels. House Bill 1114 by Representatives Yerta of the 152nd and others. Quality Basic Education Act, allow for students in 9th and 10th grade to complete the high school graduation financial literacy course requirement. House Bill 1185 by Representative Stration of the 104th and others. Courts, certain shareholder claims to be brought before the Georgia Statewide Business Court, provide. House Bill 1220 by Representatives Ballard of the 147th and others. Education, student eligibility, and maximum scholarship amounts, revised provisions. House Bill 1247 by Representative Reeves of the 99th and others. Georgia Bureaucratic Deference Elimination Act, enact. House Bill 1290 by Representatives Hilton of the 48th and others. Crimes and offenses, protection of elder persons, sexual abuse, revised definition. House Bill 1310 by Representatives Ford of the 170th and others. State symbols, cotton as official state fabric, designate. Mr. President, that completes the order.
It is now time for the morning roll call. Are there any motions to excuse? Recognize the senator from the 33rd.
Thank you, Mr. President, and good morning, y'all. I ask for unanimous consent to excuse the senators from the 5th and 22nd for business inside the Capitol.
Without objection, the senators from the 5th and 22nd are excused. Any other motions to excuse? Hearing none. Secretary will call the roll. Senator, signify your presence by voting the yea switch. Hold on one second. Senator from the 43rd.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask for unanimous consent to excuse the senator from the 26th.
Without objection, the senator from the 26th is excused. Secretary will unlock the machine. Senators. It is now time for the morning devotion. All senators, please take your seat and cease all conversation. I would ask that the doorkeepers secure the chamber at this time. I now recognize the senator from the 14th to introduce our pastor of the day and lead us in our pledge. Senator?
Thank you, Mr. President. Please join me in giving our allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And now the Georgia flag. I pledge allegiance to the Georgia flag and the principles for which it stands, wisdom, justice, moderation, and courage. Thank you, colleagues. It is my distinct honor this morning to introduce to you His Eminence Metropolitan Sebastianos of Atlanta. He was born in 1955 in Cyprus, where he completed his early education. In 1978, he graduated from the School of Theology of the University of Athens. Don't believe that was in Georgia. And the following year, he began postgraduate studies in the United States, earning a degree in 1982 with a specialization in pastoral psychology. He was ordained a deacon in 1974 and a priest in 1979. He served in various parishes in Greece, Cyprus, the United Kingdom, and the United States. From 2006 to 2018, he held the position of Chief Secretary of the Holy Eparchial Synod of the Church of America. In 2011, he was elected by the Holy and Sacred Synod of the Ecumenical Patriarchate as an auxiliary bishop under the title of the once glorious Diocese of Zila, serving under then Archbishop of America, Demetrios. In 2012, he was appointed spiritual advisor to the National Philoptochos Society of America. In 2019, he was assigned to Atlanta as an assistant to Metropolitan Alexios, and on December 2nd, 2024, he was elected Metropolitan of Atlanta by the Holy and Sacred Synod of the Ecumenical Patriarchate. Please help me welcome His Eminence. Thank you.
Please allow me first to express my thanks to Senator Josh McLaren for the kind invitation to offer the invocation this morning at this esteemed assembly, and also to acknowledge the presence of the Consul General of Greece, Konstantinos Adamopoulos, who is with us today, and to thank each and every one of you for the honor to pray for you and with you to our Lord and Father of all. Let us pray to the Lord. Almighty God, we beseech you to bless all the senators, their staff, and their aides of our beautiful and great state of Georgia. Give them strength, guidance, peace, and love to carry out their duties for the common good of all people of our state and our nation. Lord, we give you thanks for all the blessings you have given us, our families, and our nation. We implore you in these difficult times we live, times of division, violence, and wars, both in our country and throughout the world, to come to our aid and bring your healing power, to unite us and our country in one body, to bring peace to our world. Make us instruments of your love and grace, so that we become healers and peacemakers, so that your holy name may be glorified. Bless the work of this assembly and the efforts of those who took the responsibility to be the voice of the people, so that they can create opportunities for all the citizens, strengthening and caring also for those who do not have a voice, so that we may live in harmony. Lord, you have made us stewards of our world. We pray to you to open our hearts for all those who need your help. Sustain the good in their goodness. Make the wicked good through your goodness. Remember, Lord, the people here present and all your people. Have mercy on them and on us according to the multitude of your mercy. Fill their treasuries with every good thing. Preserve their marriages in peace. Nurture the infants, instruct the youth, strengthen the aged, Give courage to the faint-hearted. Bring back those in error and unite them with your truth. Sail with those who sail, travel with those who travel, defend the widows, protect the orphans, liberate the captives, heal the sick. Remember, Lord, those who are in mines, in exile, in harsh labor, those who fight for freedom and justice in the world, and especially for the people of Ukraine and our troops who are in harm's way. For you, Lord, are the helper of the helpless, the hope of the hopeless, and the heaven of the voyager, and the physician of the sick. Be all things to all, you who know each person, his request, his household, and his need. Deliver this city and our state and country from famine, plague, earthquake, flood, fire, sword, invasion of foreign enemies, and civil war. Almighty God, as we approach the date of Greek independence on March 25th, we ask you to remember the brave Greek patriots who fought in the revolution of 1821 to overthrow centuries of Ottoman occupation and regain their freedom. Bless them, for they chose to inaugurate their fight for freedom on March 25th, a day in which we celebrate the Annunciation of the Virgin Mary, when the angel announced to the mother of Jesus that she would bear a son who is going to liberate us from sin. As we remember these pious souls, Lord, we ask you to bless also the founders of our nation, whose efforts in the American Revolution inspire our forefathers and mothers to believe that freedom was possible. May you, O God, continue to bless, protect, and inspire the leaders and citizens of both Greece and America to uphold these legacies of freedom and faith, knowing that we cannot take our freedom for granted. As Benjamin Franklin said when he was asked what kind of government America was to be, he answered, "A republic, if you can keep it. For it is you who endowed us with our unalienable rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And so do we pray to you for the continued health, safety, and prosperity of both these republics. God bless America, Zito Elas, long live America and Greece." Amen.
We have some special guests here today and that we'd like to recognize. I would, Secretary, please read the caption, please.
Senate Resolution 873 by Senator Halpern of the 39th and others, a resolution recognizing March 26, 2026 as HBCU Aware Fest Day at the state capitol and for other purposes. Whereas Student Freedom Initiative is a nonprofit organization founded in 2021 to develop and scale the Student Freedom Loan Agreement and other innovative approaches to higher education financing that reduces students' reliance on traditional student loans. And whereas in 2026, SFI, in partnership with the City of Atlanta, Mayor Andre Dickens, and Live Nation Urban, launched HBCU Aware Fest, a national movement bringing together students, educators, policymakers, philanthropists, the business community, and community leaders to examine the student debt crisis and explore practical solutions to improve economic mobility. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the members of this body recognize March 26, 2026 as HBCU Aware Fest Day at the state capitol and extend best wishes for the continued growth, development, and success of HBCU Aware Fest. Mr. President, that completes the order.
Is there objection to the adoption of resolution? Chair hears none, and the resolution is adopted. Recognize the senator from the 39th to speak to this resolution.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, here in Georgia, we don't have to explain the value of our historically black colleges and universities because we live it. They are not just institutions of higher learning, they are engines of economic mobility, cultural preservation, and generational opportunity. And as someone who represents the heart of Atlanta and who's made HBCU advancement a legislative priority, I see clearly that if we are serious about Georgia's future, we must be just as serious about investing in the students those institutions serve, because talent is not the issue, access is. Too many students are doing everything right, getting accepted, showing up, doing the work, and still facing financial barriers that shape the trajectory of their lives long after graduation. And that is why the work of the Student Freedom Initiative matters. They are not just talking about the problem, they are offering solutions, reimagining how students finance their education, pairing that with financial literacy, and connecting students to real career pathways. So I want to take a moment to recognize Keith Schultz for his leadership, his vision, and his commitment to ensuring that HBCU students are not just enrolled, but empowered. His work and efforts like HBCU Aware Fest remind us that this is not just about awareness, it's about action. So today I'm proud to recognize March 26, 2026 as HBCU Aware Fest Day at the state capitol and to commend the Student Freedom Initiative for helping move us closer to a future where opportunity is not determined by circumstance. Better days are surely ahead if we build them, and that's exactly what Keith Schultz is doing. Please give a warm Senate welcome to President and CEO of the Student Freedom Initiative, Keith Schultz.
Good morning, senators, distinguished guests, and the Georgia HBCUs. I'm Keith Schultz, President and CEO of Student Freedom Initiative, the nonprofit founded by Robert F. Smith, founder, chairman, and CEO, and philanthropist of Vista Equity Partners out of Texas. He tried to free those students at historically black colleges and universities from the burden of student loan debt. It is a deep honor to stand before you as the Georgia State recognizes March 26th, 2026 as HBCU Aware Fest Day. First, let me express my gratitude to the HBCUs that are here in Atlanta for hosting us, those being Spelman, Clark Atlanta, Morehouse College, the Morehouse School of Medicine, the Intertheological Center, and Morris Brown College. I'd like to also thank and ask those to rise who accompanied us here. We have a group of our student interns, and if you would please rise. Thank you all for joining us. The Student Freedom Initiative, its mission is very simple: to create pathways that reduce resilience and burdensome traditional student loans, and to give students more freedom to pursue careers, buy homes, and build generational wealth. SFI has served over 71 colleges and universities and their students, including those that I just referenced, as well as Albany State University, and our birthplace, Morehouse College, reflecting a commitment to student success across Georgia and the nation. This week, we celebrate HBCU AwareFest, which brings together students, educators, policymakers, philanthropists in business, and community leaders together to examine the student debt crisis and to explore practical solutions that expand economic mobility. We know that student debt is not just a financial issue. It is a workforce issue, housing, and community stabilization issue. Senators, your recognition today helps elevate these conversations across Georgia and beyond. On behalf of the students we serve, our campus partners, and all who believe in expanding access to higher education, thank you for your leadership and support. You all have a great morning.
Secretary, read the caption.
Senate Resolution 744 by Senators Brass of the 6th and others, a resolution recognizing May 2nd, 2026 as Stilettos on Steel Day and International Female Ride Day at the Georgia State Capitol and for other purposes. Whereas Stilettos on Steel is a national organization whose mission is to unite female motorcyclists of all skill levels. And whereas Stilettos on Steel has over 100 dedicated members and 6 chapters in the state of Georgia. And whereas the Noonan chapter of Stilettos on Steel was founded in July 2023 and is composed of 44 dedicated members. And whereas on May 2nd, 2026, the Noonan chapter of Stilettos on Steel will be hosting its signature event, International Female Ride Day. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Senate that the members of this body recognize May 2nd, 2026 as Stilettos on Steel Day and International Female Ride Day at the Georgia State Capitol. Mr. President, that completes the order.
Is there objection to the adoption of resolution? Chair hears none, and the resolution is adopted. Recognize the senator from the 6th.
Thank you, Mr. President. It gives me great honor to present this resolution today for probably a type of organization I don't think we've ever presented a resolution to, and I think it's important that we do. And I'm going to introduce a good friend of mine from home that is a great representation of Stilettos on Steel. And so Ginger Queener is a dear friend of mine. She's resides in Noonan with her husband Stanley, and they have a passion for Harleys, especially long-distance trips. And when she is not traveling, she's very active in our community. She is past president of the Rotary Club of Sonoy, where she led the club to the Club of the Year and received the prestigious Sheffield Award for leadership for Rotary District 6900 Category 1 clubs. She has served as Rotary District 6900 Secretary for 2014 and 15, and Assistant District Governor for 15 and 16, multiple Paul Harris Fellow, and has been the recipient of the Rotary Club of Noonan's 2019 and 2020 Brigadier General Rob Tourneau Service Above Self Award, and was the President's Cup winner in 2018 and 19. She served as treasurer for the Rotary Club of Noonan and has also served her community as a past chairman of the Coweta Community Foundation and the Noonan Coweta Boys and Girls Club. When not riding her motorcycle or volunteering with organizations in Coweta, she is a financial advisor and senior vice president with the world's largest financial services firm, whom she has been with for over 35 years. And she is a great testament to this organization, because these people aren't just, you know, your typical motorcycle riders. These are local community leaders, and I'm proud to stand with them today and honor them. We thank all the ones in the gallery today. And Ginger, if you'd come up and introduce your organization and who's standing with us.
If we could have everybody's attention, please, while we've got our special guest here, I would greatly appreciate it. We got some real live biker chicks here. We need to celebrate them. All right, give Miss Ginger a round of applause here.
Thank you, Bert. Good morning. Thank you for having us. Thank you, Senator Bryce, and each of you for having our group of lady bikers here today. As I was preparing what I wanted to say, I came across a story written about one of Georgia's own female riders, and I felt it was important to share it. In 1929, Vivian Bales, at just 20-something, this Georgia school teacher climbed onto her Harley-Davidson, kicked it into gear, and rode straight into history. No sponsors, no GPS, just a paper map, a suitcase, and 5,000 miles of open road. For 78 days, Vivian carved her own path across America, through cities, plains, mountains, and storms. Every mile was a quiet rebellion against the belief that women didn't belong on the open road alone. She was confident, fearless, and utterly unstoppable. Before influencers and hashtags, there was Vivian Bales of Albany, Georgia, writing her story with the roar of her engine and the courage to keep going. When I asked my fellow Wind Sisters to describe who we are, the very same words used to describe Vivian kept coming up. That's why I knew this story belonged here today with us. Standing with me on the floor is Kirsten Levy, Beth Herman, Sandra Knowles, and Randy Redden. These are 4 incredible women, and we have 13 more with us up in the gallery today. We're mothers, daughters, sisters, wives. We're executives, CEOs, CFOs, COOs. We're nurses, doctors, accountants, and pilots. We're blue-collar and white-collar women with one thing in common. We love to ride motorcycles. Like Vivian, we are creating legacies. We mentor women who are just learning to ride, as well as those who have been riding for years. We love to inspire and be a positive image for the next generation. When we see little girls' eyes light up as they realize we're a group of women, it inspires us right back. In our communities, we work hard to be role models for our children, our grandchildren, and everyone we encounter. We support local nonprofits. We ride safe and sober. We constantly work on our skills because we know we represent women every time we ride. That is a responsibility and an honor that we do not take lightly. Like Vivian, many of us have traveled across the United States riding through tornadoes, sandstorms, extreme heat, and bitter cold, some putting more than 15,000 miles on our bikes a year. Last summer, 2 of us rode Harleys through the French and Swiss Alps, visiting 6 countries and covering nearly 2,000 miles. One of the women standing with me today is 84 years old and still rides. She spent a lifetime on the open road, starting when she was 14. When I asked about her most memorable ride, she said, "When I rode from Georgia to New York City to meet my Motormaid sisters for the 10th anniversary of September 11th parade." She was 70 years old at the time. We are deeply grateful for your help in commemorating the 20th anniversary of International Female Ride Day on May the 2nd, and for recognizing Georgia Stilettos on Steel Day. In closing, the next time you see a woman on a motorcycle, we hope you'll remember that there are now more than 6 million of us in the United States, and we're growing. Please look twice, save a life. It might just be one of us. If you're close to Noonan on May the 2nd, we would love to have you drop by and see us off for the ride, or when we come roaring back in. I promise it will be a sight to behold. On behalf of the female riders across Georgia and the Georgia Stilettos on Steel, thank you for allowing us to be here. This day is one that we will remember and treasure for the rest of our lives.
Are there any unanimous consents? Chair hears none. Does any senator wish to rise on a point of personal privilege? I recognize the good senator from the 8th.
Well, thank you, Mr. President. We have some special guests in the chamber today. We have Miss Gracie Benanto, or Benanto. Thank you. She's the Georgia Watermelon Ambassador. She's a Warner Robins native and an Abraham Baldwin Agricultural College student has been named the 2026 Georgia Watermelon Association Brand Ambassador. She was announced at the 2026 Georgia Watermelon Association Convention in January and began her role promoting the state's watermelon industry. She's currently a student at ABAC studying agricultural communications with a minor in agribusiness. As the 2026 GWA Brand Ambassador, she will represent the Georgia Watermelon Association, promoting industry growth through social media advocacy and consumer education with a goal of increasing consumer awareness and sales of Georgia-grown watermelons. And we also have the 2025 Georgia Watermelon Ambassador, Caitlin Lindsay. She's the national queen. She was crowned the National Watermelon Queen at the National Watermelon Association Convention in St. Pete Beach, Florida. She's a 21-year-old from Locust Grove, Georgia, and a student at Abraham Baldwin Agricultural College. And she will be representing the Georgia Watermelon Association nationwide. Mr. President, we also have a good friend of ours. Well, to start off with, y'all put your hands together for them and thank them for being here. We appreciate everything y'all do. Georgia is the third largest watermelon producing state in the nation. Mr. President, we have a dear mutual friend that's a dear friend of both of ours, Kendra Kennedy. Little Allen's wife was the Georgia Watermelon Queen. And we also have another Georgia Watermelon Queen in the chamber today to show you what all the Watermelon Queen can catapult you to doing great things. In the back is a dear friend of mine and a dear friend of many of us, Miss Jenna Saxon, who is the Chief of Staff to the Commissioner of Agriculture, Tyler Harper, and she was the Georgia Watermelon Queen. So we thank you for being here. Thank you what you do on behalf of the farmers in our state, and we look forward to seeing you around the state, and God bless you. And Mr. President, thank you for allowing me this opportunity, and I yield the well.
Good job, Senator, and we appreciate you ladies for being here today. Some really good young ladies that are attending ABAC school down in Tifton, Georgia. So we're glad to have them here today and appreciate them being here. Recognize the senator from the 4th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to say congratulations to Georgia State Patrol Post 45, Statesboro, Georgia. They received the Post of the Year in the state of Georgia. As many of y'all know, there are 53 posts in Georgia, and Post 45 in Statesboro received the Post of the Year. Sergeant First Class Robbie Scott and his team do a great job for our area, and we really appreciate them. Thank you, Post 45, your service and commitment to the citizens of our county. Thank you, Mr. President.
Recognize the senator from the 14th. The Instagram, influencer, I guess.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. So we were honored this morning for His Eminence, the Metropolitan, to join us as the chaplain of the day. Part of the reason that he's here this week is this is a significant week for the country of Greece. March 25th, Wednesday, we will be in session, but want to give you a preview of Greek Independence Day. That was the day in 1821 when the war for independence in Greece began, and it lasted, I think, for 9 years. But Greece finally got its independence from the Ottoman Empire after several centuries of oppression. And so in Greece, Greece. March 25th is a huge holiday, and here to celebrate that and join His Eminence was the Consul of Greece in Atlanta, Georgia. He was here earlier in the chamber. His name is Konstantinos Adamopoulos, and we just want to thank the Consul for being here today with us and for helping the state of Georgia recognize this important week in Greece. Thanks very much, Mr. President.
Recognize Senator from the 10th. And then Senator from the 28th, if you'll start making your way up here, we'll be ready for you.
Good morning to everyone. Mr. President, I am excited to present some visitors here in the chamber. This is the Georgia Municipal Court Council, and I'm sure all of you have interacted with your councils in your respective district. But we have our Madam President here with us from the Georgia Municipal Court Council, Ms. Gail Drayton. Did I get that correct? Thank you. Just want to welcome him to the chamber. Welcome to the state capitol today. Thank you. You're welcome.
Senator from the 28th, when you, floor is yours when you get up here.
Thank you. Sorry. I'm getting better. It doesn't look like it, but. Whew. Hello, hello, hello. Good morning, colleagues and the many guests, our constituents who are with us today. Today we celebrate South Fulton County Legislative Day, and we welcome their elected officials and constituents here to the Capitol. It includes College Park, Hateville, East Point, Union City, Palmetto, South Fulton, the city, and Fairburn. And that's really where I live in that area. I'm claiming everybody from those areas. So thank you very much, Chamber of Commerce of the greater South Fulton area, for being here today, and for more than 850 manufacturing and distribution firms in the largest contiguous industrial park in the eastern United States. It's a powerful contributor to Atlanta's convention and hospitality industries, with over 7,000 hotels and et cetera, et cetera. But today is also Domestic Violence Day. Who are the people who are here for domestic violence? Please stand and get a warm welcome from our senators. This is for those who have, thank you very much for coming today. We've been working with you over the years, and I know it's still so much more to do. So, so we're here with you and for you and stand by you. Domestic Violence Day in the state of Georgia. And lastly, with the South Fulton Chamber of Commerce, are you here? Are you up there too, South Fulton Chamber of Commerce? They didn't let you in yet, but anyway, they're here today, and later I will give a farewell to the, upon her retirement, to Diane Matthews, who has been with us for a long time, and she's was the executive director of this organization, but she worked with Fulton County government for so many years, and she's still young, so she's somewhere around here, so we honor her today. Diane Matthews, thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. I don't see my folk that's supposed to be in here, but we're going to give them a farewell anyway. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you, Senator. Appreciate that. We have a special guest here today, a gentleman who's had a barber shop off West Paces Ferry for almost 60 years now, and he is everybody who's running for political office. You hear about people going to churches all the time when they're running for political office. Everybody running for statewide office, if they don't stop by Tommy's place, then they're going to have a hard time to go. So a senator from the 46 has got a special presentation, and we're going to go a little bit out of order and let him present that, because these are some very fine folks we have with us today that have always been good friends to a lot of people in this chamber. So, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. President. When I was first elected 20 years ago, I found myself over here in Atlanta, and I didn't have a dry cleaners and I didn't have a barber. And my shirt started getting wrinkled, my hair started getting shaggy, so I asked around, who to rely on. And Brian Kemp told me, he said, well, can't help you with your dry cleaners. You just need to do that on the weekend back in Athens and be plan ahead on that. He said, but where you need to get your hair cut is Tommy's Barbershop, corner of West Paces and the Interstate 75 there near that OK Cafe. So I went wandering in, and this is, it's like going to Floyd's Barbershop back in Mayberry. 4 or 5 chairs there, no appointments, and you talk about learning the gossip and the scoop. That is the political center of Buckhead. And I had the pleasure, just walked in, and I met Tommy. Tommy Thomas. This barbershop has been open since 1959. And they've got 4 or 5 barbers, no appointments. You just go in, and let me tell you, he has got pictures on the wall of so many dignitaries and politicians and governors. He cut the hair of Robert Woodruff, the old chairman of Coca-Cola, of course, Governor Kemp, Johnny Isakson, Joe Frank Harris, Nathan Deal, Vince Dooley, old Furman Bisher, that used to be the sports columnist. The list goes on, and you will see just about every statewide elected official in Georgia on his wall. And then you've got a row of football helmets, all the kids that he's cut their hair that have gone on to play in colleges or in the pros. And he has got a collection. I think he's got every commemorative Coke bottle ever done because of his relationship with Robert Woodruff and Gazetta and the other guys that have run Coca-Cola. I've learned so much from him just knowing the scoop and what's going on in Atlanta. I've referred a lot of folks to him. Even this session we've had more. So I am just tickled to death to have my good friend Tommy Thomas and his wife Linda. Tommy says that we all keep asking her how she puts up with Tommy, and he says, well, it's easy. She got herself a trophy husband. So I'm going to introduce you all to Tommy Thomas. Come on up, say a word.
I don't know how you follow that, but I'm not much at talking, but I'd like to thank everyone for this honor. It's something special for a barbershop to be put up there in High Cotton, and right now we're in High Cotton right now. And to be part of this, come down here and meet the people that I've met, people that I know, it's been a great honor. And I like what y'all do here, and I'm glad y'all are doing it for the state of Georgia. And I'd like to thank Mr. Burt Jones and Bill Cowser for this great opportunity, and the rest of the guys here. And that's about all I can say right now before I get myself in trouble. Yeah, that's talking.
Recognize Senator from 24th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I come to you today, once again, letting you know your opportunity is about to run out. We don't have but 13 tickets left to sell for the Sportsman Caucus to be able to win a hunting trip or a shotgun. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a very important fundraiser to be able to provide a trailer for the handicapped, wheelchairs for handicapped people to get to go in the woods and be able to enjoy outside. So ladies and gentlemen, I encourage you, 13 tickets are left. Mr. President, 13 tickets only left.
What you got? What's the tickets for?
Here's the picture of the trailer. But let's don't let the House outdo us, ladies and gentlemen. All your senators that's in the ante room, you can come participate too. Love to have y'all come on and let's get it done. Thank you.
All right, Senator. Sounds good. You want this one? Does any other senator wish to speak on a point of personal privilege? You have before you a consent calendar of privilege resolutions. Does any other senator wish to remove a resolution from the consent calendar? Is there objection to adoption of resolution on the consent calendar? Chair hears none. The resolutions on the consent calendar are adopted. Are there any motions to withdraw or commit? Recognize the majority leader for a motion.
Mr. President, ask unanimous consent that the following bills be engrossed: HB 439 and HB 1085.
Secretary, read the caption.
House Bill 439 by Representatives Yerta of the 152nd and others. A bill is to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 48-8-50 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to compensation of dealers for reporting and paying tax and reimbursement deduction so as to revise deductions allowed to dealers, to provide for related matters, to provide for an effective date, to repeal conflicting laws for other purposes. House Bill 1085 by Representatives Petrie of the 166th and others. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 2 of Chapter 7 of Title 48 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to imposition, rate, computation, exemptions, and credits relative to income taxes so as to provide for various tax credits for forestry manufacturing facilities, to provide for transfer of tax credits and conditions, to provide for reporting, to provide for an effective date and automatic repeal, to provide for definitions, to provide for related matters, to provide for an effective date and applicability, to repeal conflicting laws for other purposes. Mr. President, that completes the order.
Majority Leader has moved. Is there objection? Without objection, motion prevails. Moving on to the rules calendar. Secretary Reed, House Bill 1009.
House Bill 1009 by Representatives Hilton of the 48th and others. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 2 of Title 20 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to elementary and secondary education so as to require local school systems and public schools to enact policies and procedures for use of personal electronic devices at school and school-sponsored events by students in grades 9 through 12, to revise provisions relative to permissible student use of personal electronic devices, to revise a definition, to provide for related matters, to provide for an effective date, to repeal conflicting laws for other purposes. Mr. President, the Committee of the Senate on Children and Families recommends that this bill do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Kirkpatrick, Chairman. Mr. President, Senator Kemp of the 38th District offers the following amendment. Amendment 1, amend HB 1009 by replacing lines 18 through 21 with the following. Bell to bell means the period beginning with the first bell signaling the start of instructional time and ending with the final bell signaling the conclusion of the school day, and shall include all scheduled instructional time, assemblies, and other school-related activities, provided, however, that such terms shall not include brief transitions between classes for students in grades 9 through 12, during which access to personal electronic devices may be permitted in accordance with policies and procedures adopted by local school systems and other public schools pursuant to this code section. Mr. President, that completes the order.
Recognize the Senator from the 48. Speak to the bill.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning, colleagues. First bill of the day, House Bill 1009. Simple bill. This is one of many bills that came as a result of the amazing study committee that I co-chaired with the Senator from the 40th on the effects of social media on kids. And the number one recommendation that came out of that committee was what cell phones do to our kids, what a distraction it is, how much it distracts them from focusing on learning time, from what it does to their ability to talk to each other at lunch, to interact with each other, and all that is lost. In testimony, we heard teachers talk about even how school fights had changed. The kids weren't fighting anymore because nobody had a cell phone to record it. If there's no record of it, it didn't happen, right? So when we think about what's best for our children, we have to take away as many external factors as we can. We can't legislate what happens at home, but we can control what happens at school. And that's why this bill is so critically important. Over the course of the many, many months that we discussed this, we had a lot of interesting testimony. But this one issue from parents, from teachers, from administrators, was 90+% in favor of banning cell phones from bell to bell. Not learning time to learning time or anything else. It was strictly focused on bell to bell. I'm going to tell you all a quick story that was shared with me by a very concerned parent about what this bill would do in the event of another Appalachia school tragedy. He said, parents want to know how they can reach their child in the event of an emergency. And I said, I understand that. Nobody can take that away from a parent's desire to hear that. I said, but let's talk through that. Let's talk through what does that mean. And I said, sir, let me ask you this. What did you do as a young man? What was your first real job in your 20s? And he said, I was a submariner. I said, okay, great. Let's talk about that. I said, when you went to battle stations, were you guys focused on anything else? Or did you guys have cell phones? Were you allowed to be distracted by other things? He said, no, all distractions turned off, focus on listening for the commands. I said, right. What would happen if you didn't listen to those commands? He said, people would die. And I said, okay, and tell me what would happen if students weren't listening to their teachers, weren't listening to the trained professionals, weren't listening to the adults saying, we're going to barricade the door, we're going to stay here, we're going to, giving them all the commands of what they have to do for their own personal safety. But if they're taking direction from somebody on a cell phone saying, run, or go do, or something contrary to the bigger picture there, what would that mean? And he said, more lives would be lost. And so even a parent who was directly impacted by that horrible, horrible event just a couple of years ago admitted that he recognizes that a cell phone ban is the best thing for our children's safety. It is the best thing for their mental well-being. It is the best thing for their mental health. Before you is an amendment from my friend from the 38th. I got probably the same phone calls from one of our shared counties on learning time and what does this mean. I will tell you, while it may be positive in certain classrooms in certain schools, collectively across our state, it doesn't fit with what our boards of education have asked for, and it doesn't fit with what came out of the countless hours of testimony that the senator from the 40th and I and others, senator from the 5th, were all a part of. So while I appreciate the intent, if we were to pass Amendment 1, it would be very difficult to give our teachers and our administrators the tools they need to be successful in this. This is one of the most important bills that we'll pass this year for our kids. This will impact every single student in each of your districts, grades 9 through 12. And as the father of 3 daughters, 2 of whom are still teenagers, I can tell y'all that the only constituents that have spoken to me negatively about this bill are my teenage daughters. Every single parent unanimously, every teacher, and everyone else out there has said this is the best thing we can do for them and their future success. I'm happy to answer any questions if there are any.
You have no questions, Senator.
Thank you for your consideration. I'm happy to yield the well. And I will let the senator from the 38th speak to his amendment.
Recognize the senator from the 38th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, before you, I have an amendment to this bill. Let me first say, last year when we debated banning cell phones, we just went K8. And I came to this well and said I was in favor of the bill. And I would love to have, last year, amended that bill to go to high school. I know the distractions that cell phones can have in classrooms. The whole point of our cell phone bills is to be distraction-free learning environments. I do not believe that we should do a blanket policy that treats 17-year-olds like 7-year-olds. These are 2 totally different stages in life. And so I visited some schools in my district. Fulton County, which is the largest school system in my district, allows students to take their cell phones and put them up when they get in the classroom. What my amendment does is does not say that all school districts have to do this, but it gives them the flexibility to do so if they so choose. So Fulton County has already implemented cell phone bans in high school. They have found what works for them. If we do not accept this amendment, we will force all of those school districts that have already began to implement this to now have to change their policies yet again. And so it's not saying that all school districts have to do this. It's just saying that they may treat transition time differently so that they can continue using the policy that they already use that works. High school students are not elementary school students, are not middle school students. We are teaching them to become adults. Many of them have jobs, responsibilities, and also children. And so I do not believe we should be forcing a 17-year-old, 18-year-old to have to go out without their phones a whole 8 hours. We don't do it. We don't enforce that on ourselves, so we should not enforce that on high school students if a school district chooses to do that. If a school district disagrees with my position, they can still implement a bell-to-bell ban. This just makes bell-to-bell mean it can also be when the class bell rings, and when that class bell rings again, then you can get your cell phone. And so with that, Mr. President, I'll take any questions if there are any on this amendment.
You do have a couple questions, Senator. Recognize the senator from the 14th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Does the senator yield?
Yes, sir, I do.
Senator, thank you for bringing this amendment. Just to highlight a couple things for the benefit of the body. So on line 7, where before that it says access to personal devices, electronic devices may be permitted, that may on line 7 is not a shall. Is that not true, Senator?
That is correct.
So, Senator, am I right in understanding that that means that if a school district wanted to ban cell phones throughout the entirety of the day, no exceptions, they would still have the flexibility to do that under your amendment? Is that not
Absolutely. With the bill passed with this amendment, they will still be able to implement that. And I know that there may be some concerns like, hey, you know, what about teachers having to enforce this? If it works for a school district, they can do that. But if they're like, we don't want our teachers to have to deal with that, they can still do that with this amendment.
Great. And Senator, just to highlight what I think is such an important point about responsibility at the age of 17, you know, we heard an anecdote from the author of the bill about battle stations and the necessity of locking in, so to speak, when there are certain crazy things happening. But in the normal course, in between instructional times, if you have a 17-year-old who has a job, has a child, doesn't it work the other way too, Senator, that person is not just the helpless child, that person is actually a responsible person who, by the way, if we even wanted to get into it in terms of felony liability in the state, a 17-year-old can go to adult criminal court. But putting that to the side, is it not true that that 17-year-old also has responsibilities that they need an adult-capable device to be able to see to during the day at appropriate times? Is that not true?
Absolutely, it's true. You know, it's all about teaching students to be responsible in managing their lives. You know, there's times when you need to focus, and there's time when you can address any issues that you may have outside of that classroom, the school building. So I think it's absolutely appropriate if a school district wants to allow students to have that responsibility and address those responsibilities outside of the school building, they should be able to do that, but not required to do that if they don't want to.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you.
You have one more question, actually.
Okay.
Senator from the 55th.
Thank you, Senator. Will the senator yield?
Yes, sir.
Is it not true that this is a fine legislation designed to stop the distractions that we are having in the learning environment?
That's right. You're right.
And it is not true that your amendment may even be used by local school systems to reward students or to bring further disciplinary actions. For example, if the students are using foul language toward the teachers, right now, what, if anything, can teachers do if students curse them out? Can you tell as a former principal, can you tell us what tools does a teacher have if a student just curses them out, a 7th grader or 8th grader, curses their teacher out, disrespect them? What, if anything, what recourse does a teacher have right now?
Well, you know, as a former principal, I would say they should have very supportive administrators that ensure that that does not happen again. But to your point, this can be an incentive. It could be like, well, you lose that privilege of being able to have your phone during transition time. If we just blanket say they absolutely cannot, we take away some flexibility from school districts in order to be able to do this.
So is it not true that that could be an additional tool that a teacher could use if a student disrespect them, that they could not have access to that phone, which means so much to our students right now, and to bring some sense of decorum back to our schools?
Yes, sir, you're right.
Is it not true that we no longer have corporal punishment, and that some of the people in this very room would not want their students in public education for the lack of discipline in those classrooms?
You are right, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Yep. We
appreciate your amendment. It's a very fine one.
Thank you.
Got one more. Recognize the senator from 13th.
Sir, to yield?
Yes, sir, I do.
Sir, well, I think I could I'm not totally against or for this amendment because I want to make sure I'm not confused, if you don't mind. How is this not creating a loophole that students would be able to just do their own thing with their phone and then create against the policy? How are we not creating a loophole here?
So this is still requiring, it's not changing the requirement that school districts have to come up with their policy. So it's still a district-wide policy that would be implemented. This just gives the district the flexibility to say, we want it to be banned the whole school day, or we are just specifically saying during instructional time, students are not to have their phone. So that student will still have to comply with whatever the school district implements.
And you, Senator Yield?
Yes, sir, I do.
And your bill, though, your amendment is 9 through 12, grades 9 through 12.
That's right, just high school.
And that wouldn't create a loophole for those students in regards to going around the policies?
No, sir, because they still have to follow the policy of the school district. So that student, if I am in Atlanta Public Schools, I still have to follow the policy that Atlanta Public Schools has implemented. This amendment just gives the districts the flexibility to decide what their policy is.
Senator Yield?
Yes, sir.
Did our previous bill give those schools the option of setting that policy in place?
Yes, sir, it does, but it does not give them the flexibility to determine that during transition times, students can have their phone. So picture the mailboxes over there. Many classrooms in Fulton County have those slots where if I'm a student, my cell phone is put right in that slot as soon as I get in the classroom, and it's working for them. They can still do that and say that students cannot have cell phones during instruction time. But with this amendment, some school districts can say, you know what, as soon as you get to the building, your phone is put away, and they can still do that.
Thank you, Senator.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, one more question. So recognize Senator from the 4th.
Senator Yield.
To my esteemed chairman, I absolutely do.
Thank you, sir. Senator, are you aware that Georgia Southern University College Education did a study back latter part of last year? They contacted over 3,000 people, parents, children, and so forth and so on, and over 74% of those people that responded said they wanted to take cell phones entirely out of all schools.
I am aware, and I'm one of those people that supports a cell phone ban. But I also feel like we should treat our high school students a little differently because they have different responsibilities than students that are 6 years old.
Yeah. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right, Senator.
All right, colleagues, just want to remind you, this does not change the fact that school districts can still implement a bell-to-bell ban. It gives them the flexibility to continue to use policies that are working in school districts that ban it during instructional time. And with that, Mr. President, I'll yield to Will.
Recognize Senator from the 29th.
Friends, I appreciate the senator from the 38th, and I appreciate his passion. I also understand what the senator from the 48th is trying to do. We have discovered something that has been long needed, and that is to get cell phones out of the classrooms. But they also need to be out of the hallways, and they need to be out of the schools as best possible. I think if we want to tout the success we've had over the past year with this piece of legislation that Representative Hilton and the senator from the 48th have been working on, then I think we need to trust the results. And the results are it is working. I've had one of my largest school districts took last year's legislation and they banned the phones throughout the district. And the results, while talking to teachers, was astounding. She said that the students seemed happier, they communicated more with each other, they participated more in class. I think giving them the opportunity to not have them in class, but then get them in the hallway, not having them here, but then getting them here, all we're doing are torturing these kids that we know based on scientific research, are addicted to this electronic device. We don't need 159 counties with many more school districts than that piecemealing something that we know works. I appreciate the amendment, but we saw what happened at the school shooting. We saw all the dysfunction that occurred when everybody was calling their parents and everybody was calling 911, and first responders could not get to the school because of all the traffic in the road that were not first responder vehicles. They were moms and dads and others parking their delivery trucks, sedans, and SUVs in the road. Giving these students, and understand, if they're 7 or 17 or 18, they are students. They are in custody of the school. The teachers are responsible for them. If we want to maintain order, then we have to do it for everybody, and we have to do it consistently. So while I appreciate the passion, I think the amendment hurts what we're trying to do, and I would ask that my colleagues would vote against the amendment and vote for the underlying legislation so that we can continue building a strong atmosphere of learning in our schools. And with that, Mr. President, I yield the well.
Recognize the senator from 37.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, I rise today in strong support of the underlying bill, HB 1009, but in opposition to Amendment 1. Again, I appreciate the debate that we've had today, but Amendment 1, although it would make the current policy of one of our school districts unchanged largely, is really part of the problem we're trying to address. Allowing kids to have phones between classes puts teachers back into the role of being policemen of cell phones. When they've got their phones between their class periods, teachers are telling kids to put it away, stop that. You know, the piece we've seen across our schools that have implemented these bell-to-bell bans has been significant. And it's because the texting, the messaging, the picking at each other that happens even between classes is part of the disruption that these devices provide. So Amendment 1 would just open up that door again, making creating the havoc of cell phones between classes, making kids try to manage multiple messages between classes, and putting teachers back as the police officers of cell phones. One thing teachers have said is the ability to not have to police phones and focus on instructing kids is one of the power of the proposal of 1009 and what a bell-to-bell ban really means. Mr. President, putting phones away all day is what our experience shows us. One of my school districts, Marietta City Schools, was one of the early pilots districts of a full bell-to-bell ban, and it was really the idea that kids put phones out of their lives from beginning of school to end of school. That's what's really brought about the change. Between classes, whether it's in the lunchroom or other times, the culture change, the positive culture change within the school really happens not just about what happens in class, but what's happening between classes. That's why it's so vitally important not to miss this. So that, Mr. President, the social interaction we've seen improve in the hallways, in lunch breaks, in the systems that have put true bell-to-bell bans in place is part of the power of what's behind HB 1009. And although my dear friend from the 38th proposes it to maintain the status quo essentially as it exists in Fulton County schools today, I think the proposal of HB 1009 for a true bell-to-bell ban is essential to make the difference in the lives of kids that we're seeking. With that, Mr. President, I yield the will.
Recognize the senator from the 40th.
Thank
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise in support of the underlying bill, but in opposition to the amendment. I co-chaired the Kids Online Safety Study Committee this fall, along with the senator from the 48th, and we heard some really good testimony from high schools who had already implemented a bell-to-bell smartphone restriction. What I could see from my own kids when they got smartphones in middle school, 8th grade, was that one single text could destroy an evening or destroy a day, and you didn't know what happened. All of a sudden, your kid was fine, and then your kid wasn't fine. And if you dug around a little bit, you found out it was because your kid got one text that was upsetting. So that can happen in the hallway as well. Georgia Southern University did a survey of teachers. Over 3,000 teachers responded, and 85% of those high school teachers did support a bell-to-bell ban. Only 67% thought that it should be limited to instruction time only. And that's because there's something that teachers know, and that's that when the kids are changing classes in the hallway, there's a certain amount of disruption that happens. And that's the time when the kid's going to get that upsetting text. And so when they come back into the classroom, then you lose instruction time because you have to take that time to calm the kids down. Let's just ban the smartphone from bell to bell so that kids can learn what it feels like to not have that distraction, to not have that extra stress and anxiety, so their brains can be open to 100% pure learning. Thank you. I yield the well.
Recognize senator from the 41st.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise today in support of the senator from the 38th Amendment. I want to be clear. Fulton County is the county that is already doing this. They've banned the phones from inside of the classroom. They allow the students to have them and access to them during transitions between classrooms. Fulton County is one of the largest school districts that we have in the state, and they've made it work. They've seen great success in terms of student focus inside of the classroom, while also giving students the opportunity to connect with their phones in the in-between. I fundamentally believe that we are now in a time where phones are just present. I can count on two hands the number of people who are on phones right now in this chamber. Phones are absolutely just a part of our culture, and for us to just blindly ban them, to give them no access, ultimately I don't think that it's realistic. And I think that we're going to continue to have problems, and we're going to have school districts who will come to us in the future and ask us to do exactly what the senator from the 38th is telling us now. Fulton County has tried it. They've been the pilot for it. They've been the tester, and they're right. And the final thing is, I just want to reiterate, like the senator is really clear. There are students today who have kids. They have children who are in daycares or are being taken care of by their grandparents. There are students who have jobs. These young people are functioning in a society where they need to be able to know if their own children are okay. They need to be able to be contacted in between. And I don't think that this is not the scary thing that everyone is making it out to be. So I rise in support of this very nuanced, very strongly worded, clearly worded, compromise language that the senator from the 38th has offered us. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the measure? Hearing none. Senator from the 48th, would you like to close?
Let me give you all a couple more examples just to make the point. The senator from the 37th brought up turning our teachers into cell phone police. Here's what that looks like. Every class, teachers collect, teachers give back. What happens the first time a teacher fumbles a phone out of their hand and it lands on that floor? Cracked screen, broken phone. Oh, great. Now a teacher is liable for replacing a $1,000 handheld computer, which is essentially what this is. Didn't give me the right phone back. It's not my technology, whatever it is. You're going to put all that liability on our teachers. They're not asking for this. Fulton unanimously is not asking for this. How do I know this? I represent Fulton County. They are doing it with some degrees of success and some degrees of failure. But the teachers have asked us repeatedly, legislate this, take the liability off of us, take this out of our hands. One of our colleagues referenced lunchtime. Just let them use it during lunch. It's not learning time. They can use it for that. Every one of you grew up without a cell phone, and look how you turned out. Some good, some, I guess that's debatable, right? But administrator after administrator, teacher after teacher have said, please get these devices out of the classroom, but get them out of the lunchroom too. Kids have forgotten how to communicate with each other. They've forgotten and lost the ability to have interpersonal skills. And those are critical things that we all learned growing up that kids in this generation do not have. So I really appreciate what the senator from the 38th is trying to do. It does not fit with what everything that from the study committee that the senator from the 40th and I worked so hard to bring. I ask you to please vote down the amendment, vote yes on the underlying bill, and with that I yield the well.
Senator has yielded. And so now we're on to adoption of the amendments. Amendment number 1, authored by the senator from the 38th. Is there objection to amendment number 1? There is objection. So all those in favor of amendment number 1 will vote yea. All opposed to amendment number 1 will vote no. Secretary, unlock the machine. Senator from the 14th, for what purpose do you rise?
Parliamentary inquiry, Mr. President.
State your inquiry.
Mr. President, is it not true that this amendment only covers brief transitions between classes, meaning it would not cover lunchtime, and that lunchtime, like instructional time, would be protected under this amendment? Is that not true, Mr. President?
I trust the senator knows what he speaks. Senator from the 23rd, what purpose do you rise?
Mr. President, parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Is it not true that a vote yes on this amendment would require the teachers to be the police of cell phones in Georgia schools?
Senator knows what he speaks. On the adoption of the amendment, the yeas are 13, the nays are 38, and this amendment has failed. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? Chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? Chair hears none. The main question is ordered. Questions on the passage of the bill. All those in favor of the bill will vote yea. All opposed, nay. Secretary, unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 52, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Secretary read House Bill 1030.
House Bill 1030 by Representatives Donna Tucci of the 105th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 2, Title 20 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to elementary and secondary education so as to enact the Math Matters Act, to require the State Board of Education to adopt content standards for middle and high school advanced math courses, to require local education agencies to establish advanced math courses in middle school and high school, to require the Professional Standards Commission to ensure students completing teacher certification programs have the knowledge and skills to teach math, including the 4 strands of mathematical proficiency, to provide for definitions, to provide for related matters, to provide for an effective date, to repeal conflicting laws, and for other purposes. Mr. President, the Committee of the Senate on Education and Youth recommends that this bill do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Hickman of the 4th District Chairman. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Education and Youth offers the following substitute to House Bill 1030, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 2, Title 20 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to elementary and secondary education so as to enact the Math Matters Act, to require the State Board of Education to adopt content standards for middle and high school advanced math courses, to require the Department of Education to provide guidance and technical assistance to local education agencies, to require local education agencies to establish advanced math courses, to provide for enrollment of students into and withdrawal from advanced math courses, to require minimum core math instruction time for students in grades 4 and 5, to require that parents or guardians are provided information regarding advanced math courses, to require annual reports, to prohibit waivers, to require the Professional Standards Commission to revise standards for acquiring and maintaining teacher certification in elementary education, and for other purposes. Mr. President, that completes the order.
Recognize the senator from the 18th. Speak to the bill.
Thank you, Mr. President. Today, and colleagues, today I'd like to present to you Georgia Math Matters Act. This was a great bipartisan bill, came from Representative Donna Tucci in the House, passed unanimously over there, and it does 3 things for our students in the state of Georgia. First and foremost, it guarantees access to advanced math classes starting in middle school and going through high school for those students who achieve a certain test level on their scores, an objective standard as opposed to being selectively picked out by a teacher or a counselor. We're using objective standards with the Georgia Milestones testing program. Secondly, it improved training for our teachers who will be teaching these advanced math classes. And lastly, it's going to be guaranteeing 60 minutes of daily core math instructions for our 4th and 5th graders, because studies have shown that the earlier they learn these important skills, the better they'll do later in time. We are following the approach of our neighbors to the west in Alabama, who, after COVID, was the only state who is now testing at pre-COVID pandemic levels. And with that, I will take any questions if anybody has any. All right,
no questions.
I will yield the well.
Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the... He was a little uncertain about himself right there, wasn't he? He's still learning. He's going to get there. Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the measure? Chair hears none. Is there objection to the previous question being ordered? Chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Question is on the adoption of the committee substitute. Is there objection to the adoption of the committee substitute? Hearing none, the committee substitute is adopted. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of committee which is favorable to the passes of the bill? Chair hears none. The report of committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? Chair hears none. The main question is ordered. The question is on the passage of the bill by substitute. All those in favor will vote yea. All opposed, nay. Secretary, unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 51, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed by substitute. Secretary Reed, House Bill 944.
House Bill 944 by Representative McDonald III of the 26th. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 40-1-8 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to safe operations of motor carriers, commercial motor vehicles, and drivers and safe transportation of hazardous materials so as to update the reference date to federal regulations regarding the safe operation of motor carriers and commercial motor vehicles, to revise a definition, to provide for related matters, to repeal conflicting laws for other purposes. Mr. President, the Committee of the Senate on Transportation recommends that this bill do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Dolezal, the 27th District Chairman. Mr. President, that completes the order.
Recognize the senator from the 30th.
Colleagues, annual compliance bill, changing the date to January 1st, 2026. I yield the well.
Wow. I mean, 6 seconds, huh? Wow. Wow. That was impressive right there. Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the measure? Chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there objection to the agreed to the report of committee, which is favorable to the passage of the bill? Report of committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? Chair hears none. The main question is ordered. Questions on the passage of the bill. All those in favor will vote yea. All those opposed, nay. Secretary, unlock the machine. Senator from the 47th, what purpose do you rise?
Mr. President, parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Is it not true that it took the senator longer to walk to the well than it did to his time in the well?
Look like, yeah, senator knows what he speaks. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 50 and the nays are 0. This bill, having received a requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Secretary Reed, House Bill 1085.
House Bill 1085 by Representative Petrie of the 166 and others. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 2 of Chapter 7 of Title 48 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to imposition, rate, computation, exemptions, and credits relative to income taxes, so as to provide for various tax credits for forestry manufacturing facilities, to provide for transfer of tax credits and conditions, to provide for reporting, to provide for effective dates and automatic repeals, to provide for definitions, to provide for related matters, to provide for an effective date and applicability, to repeal conflicting laws for other purposes. Mr. President, the Committee of the Senate on Finance recommends that this bill do pass. By substitute, respectfully submitted, Senator Huffstetler, the 52nd District Chairman. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Finance offers the following substitute to House Bill 1085, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 2 of Chapter 7 of Title 48 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to imposition, rate, computation, exemptions, and credits relative to income taxes, so as to provide for various tax credits for forestry manufacturing facilities, to provide for transfer of tax credits and conditions, to provide for reporting, to provide for aggregate maximum amounts of tax credits, to require approval of future amendments by a 2/3 vote of each chamber of the General Assembly, to provide for effective dates and automatic repeals, to provide for definitions, to provide for a short title, to provide for related matters, to provide for an effective date applicability, to repeal conflicting laws for other purposes. Mr. President, that completes the order.
Recognize the Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's a great day to be a Georgian. We've got an incredibly beautiful state. We're blessed to live in Georgia. I think one of the reasons our state is so beautiful is we have the highest number of acres of private timberland of any state in the nation. Georgia has more privately owned timberland than any state in the nation, and that benefits all of us. This bill is a response to what we have seen happen with our forestry industry. Hurricane Helene, of course, dealt a devastating blow to forestry, and then subsequently we've had 3 big mills close. International Paper in Savannah, D.S. Smith in Riceboro, and Georgia Pacific in Cedar Springs. Forestry has a $60 billion economic impact in Georgia. It employs about 142,000 Georgians. Those mill closures had a $3 billion economic hit to our economy. We lost about 1,800 direct jobs at those mills and 6,000 indirect jobs. What House Bill 1085 does is enhances the existing manufacturing tax credit that's already on the books to define forestry manufacturing. Many of the forestry manufacturing jobs are already eligible for the existing tax credit, but this defines forestry manufacturing, and it gives a investment tax credit on new investments from January 1 for 5 years, so it puts a 5-year sunset on it. But for Tier 1 counties, it'll be a 15% transferable tax credit in Tier 1 counties, a 10% transferable tax credit in Tier 2 counties, and a 3% investment tax credit in Tier 3 and 4 counties. It also provides for a $500 per job tax credit for new jobs created. And it would apply to sawmills, pellet mills, biofuel manufacturers like diesel fuel or sustainable aviation fuel, mass timber. They can use wood to make metallurgic coal for the steel industry out of biochar. We've got research. We've invested in our research institutions to look at expanding for forestry-based pharmaceuticals, nylon. We put a lot of money in the Rewood project over at Georgia Tech to do that. And we are competing with other states for these type of new manufacturing jobs and new investment in manufacturing. We've just seen some large investments. Weyerhaeuser made a large investment in Louisiana. There's a diesel fuel manufacturing out of biomass that just put a $280 million investment in South Carolina. So we're not operating in a void. We're competing with other states, and we need these tax credits, investment tax credits, and job tax credits to compete and keep our forestry industry vibrant and create Georgia jobs for real Georgians. So I'll be happy to answer any questions, Mr. President. If there are none, I ask for your favorable consideration. This passed unanimously out of the Senate Finance Committee, and they scrutinized it pretty hard, as always.
You have no questions, Senator.
Thank you. I'd ask for your green vote on this. Thank you. To keep Georgia green.
Does any other senator wish to speak for or against this measure? Is there objection to previous question being ordered? Chair hears none. Previous question is ordered. The question is on the adoption of the committee substitute. Is there objection to the adoption of the committee substitute? Hearing none, the committee substitute is adopted. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? Chair hears none. The main question is ordered. Question is on the passage of the bill by substitute. All those in favor of the bill will vote yea. All opposed, nay. Secretary, unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 50 and the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed by substitute. Secretary read House Bill 79.
House Bill 79 by Representatives Newton of the 127th and others. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 7 of Title 48 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to income taxes so as to provide for a tax credit for certain ineligible expenses incurred for firearm safe handling instructional courses and firearm secure storage devices, to provide for an aggregate annual cap, to provide definitions, to provide for terms and conditions, to provide for credit pre-approval by the department, to prohibit the creation of certain lists or databases, to provide for rules and regulations, to provide for a short title, to provide for automatic repeal, to provide for an effective date and applicability, to provide for related matters, to repeal conflicting laws, and for other purposes. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Finance recommends that this bill do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Huffstetler, the 52nd District Chairman. Mr. President, the Senate Finance Committee offers the following substitute to House Bill 79, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Title 48 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to revenue and taxation so as to provide for a tax credit for certain eligible expenses incurred for firearm safe handling instructional courses, to provide for an aggregate annual cap, to provide for definitions, to provide for terms and conditions, to provide for credit pre-approval by the department, to prohibit the creation of certain lists or databases, to provide for rules and regulations to exempt sales of firearms, ammunition, gun safes, and related accessories from sales and use taxes during a 4-day period each year, to provide for automatic repeals, to provide for related matters, to provide for a short title, to provide for effective dates and applicability, to repeal conflicting laws and for other purposes. Mr. President, a fiscal note has been attached. Mr. President, a minority report has been filed. Mr. President, that completes the order.
Recognize Senator from the 31st. You wish to speak?
Mr. President, I move that HB 79 be committed to the Committee on Rules.
The Senator has moved that HB 79 be committed to rules. Is there objection? Not objection. HB 79 is recommitted to rules. Secretary read House Bill 154.
House Bill 154 by Representative Richardson of the 125th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 11 of Title 31 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to emergency medical services so as to designate ambulance services as an essential service in the state, to provide for statutory construction, to provide for related matters, to repeal conflicting laws and for other purposes. Mr. President, the Committee of the Senate on Health and Human Services recommends that this bill do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Watson of the 1st District Chairman. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Health and Human Services offers the following substitute to House Bill 154, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 1 of Title 50 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to general provisions relative to state government so as to require the governor to request that the United States Secretary of Transportation place the state in the Atlantic Standard Time Zone, to provide for observance in the state of such standard time year-round subject to approval of the governor's request and until such time as the United States Congress authorizes the states to observe daylight saving time year-round, to provide for a short title, to provide for legislative findings, to repeal conflicting laws and for other purposes. Mr. President, that completes the order.
Senator from the 41st, what purpose do you rise?
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm asking for a ruling on the germaneness of this bill as it relates to the introduced bill originally.
All right. Sit tight. The chair, after looking at it, since it was a complete strip of the original bill and a replace of the subject matter in it, I will rule it germane. Recognize Senator from the 50th to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise today to bring you House Bill 154, which deals with a public health and safety concern. Senators, twice a year we disrupt the lives of every family in this state. We force parents to adjust their schedules. We throw off sleep patterns. We interrupt routines that people depend on, not just for convenience, but for their health, their work, and their children. And if we do it for a system that frankly no one seems to be able to defend anymore, this isn't about losing an hour or gaining an hour. It's about disruption. It's about the reality that every time we change the clock, we create confusion for families, for businesses, for schools, and for anyone trying to maintain a consistent routine. And for what? The evidence that this system does what it was originally intended to do is weak at best. But the evidence that it disrupts people's lives, that is overwhelming. We see it in sleep studies, we see it in workplace productivity, we see it in accident data, and we see it in our own homes. Now, some will raise concerns about mornings, about it being too dark, and those concerns deserve to be taken seriously, but let's be honest about what we're talking about here. We're not creating darkness, we're creating consistency. And if there are specific concerns at the local level, schools have the ability to adjust start times. That's a local decision. We shouldn't keep disrupting millions of Georgians twice a year because we're unwilling to make practical adjustments where they're actually needed. What this bill does is simple. It gives Georgia a lawful path under existing federal law to stop changing the clocks. Nothing more. It doesn't force a time change unilaterally. It doesn't override federal authority. It simply allows Georgia to use the process that already exists to bring stability back to people's daily lives. At the end of the day, this is about stability. It's about letting families plan their lives without unnecessary disruption. At some point, we have to ask, if a policy that disrupts nearly every family in this state and no one can clearly defend it, why are we still doing it? Mr. President, I'm happy to answer questions. I ask for your favorable consideration.
You do have, actually, you have no questions, Senator. He wants to come speak on behalf of the bill.
Right. Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the will.
Recognize Senator from the 37th.
Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen, the Senate arrives today to extend the conversation on House Bill 154 with perhaps a different perspective. I appreciate the Senator from the 50th thoughtful consideration of all the things we do here, but there is another opinion about the wisdom of doing this as it's proposed in HB 154. I think the consistency the Senator from the 50th talks about is something we would all welcome. I think the prospect that we have uniformity in our lives and less interruptions is something we would all welcome. The concern I have, though, and I just use this as an opportunity to voice perhaps the alternate opinion, is that as interconnected as we are as a state, if Georgia moves forward alone, I know we're petitioning the Department of Transportation to authorize us to do this, pursuant to federal law, but if this were to move forward as it's proposed, without having other states in the eastern seaboard and the eastern time zone moving with us, what this would create, unfortunately, is a circumstance in which Georgia has one uniform time across the year, and in the times of the year in November and March where we normally will fall back or spring forward, will now be off cycle with our neighbors. Now, if this bill was proposed to move with all the other neighbors in the Eastern time zone, I would support this. I think the idea is a good idea in its underlying intent, but what's proposed in 154 is not going to have my support today, because what would happen here is, by moving us to the Atlantic time zone, if Alabama didn't move, we would have a 2-hour separation from Alabama. So if you're in Columbus, Georgia, you'd be 2-hour difference in time from your folks in Phoenix, Alabama, right across the river for major portions of the year. It would also desync folks from a business perspective. Have the opportunity to serve clients across the country, not just in the state. And if you think about this, right now, when we spring forward or we move or we fall back, we're doing it consistent with the states around us. We're doing it consistent with the states in the Central Time Zone, Mountain Time Zone, Pacific Time Zone. What this would do, if Georgia were approved to do this and do it alone, we would be desynced those months of the year. Some months of the year we would be consistent with South Carolina and our neighbors. Other months of the year we would not be consistent with South Carolina, North Carolina, Florida, and even folks in other time zones. It would create chaos by us having to maintain not just what time zone we're in, but what months of the year we're in for scheduling meetings, flights, and schedules. And I think there's just some unintended consequences that aren't contemplated in HB 154. So I applaud the Senator from the 50th as an intentions to try to create some consistency, but I think, unfortunately, as it's crafted, it would create more inconsistency and more confusion. And I think we need to come back another time and do this in a complete holistic way with all the states in the Eastern time zone and perhaps all the states across the country, so that this is done consistently and it creates the kind of consistency and predictability that's intended in the underlying proposition. And that, Mr. President, is not something that I think should excite great passions. But if we stop and think carefully about this, I think the current proposal before us actually creates more inconsistency than perhaps it solves. And with that, Mr. President, I'm going to have to respectfully, in respect to my friend from the 50th, not support HB 154. Thank you.
All right. Recognized Senator from the 9th.
Daylight savings. Daylight savings. We just want one thing. No more changing the time back. Thank you, Mr. President. I rise in support of HB 154. I just want to point out a few things. I know this seems like, yeah, why are we debating about this bill? But I want you to consider something, that time changes do disrupt kids with special needs. Those with ADHD and those that are struggling with autism, these type of disruptions do affect them. I think we should talk to some parents about this and maybe some teachers and understand that this is a problem even for those that have small children. I remember when I had small children, and what children thrive on is a routine. And every time the time changes back and forth, that routine gets disrupted. So it's just something to consider about creating a consistent environment, a calming environment. And I think we've had this bill before in the past or something similar. And I had so many parents reaching out to me at that time saying, this is what we want. Our kids are complaining every time the time changes. It's just disruptive for them. They're tired. So I'm in support of this bill, and I ask my colleagues to please consider other implications. I think the state of Georgia can lead in this, and maybe some other states will follow us. With that, Mr. President, I yield the bill.
Senator is yielded. Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the measure? Senator, would you like to close? All right, come on. So we're going from Central to Eastern to now Atlantic. Is that right? All right.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just to address some concerns from a senator from the 37th, he brought up, well, let's do this another time. Well, we've done this, and Georgia, along with over 20 other states in the country, have already passed legislation that said if Congress acts, we will switch to daylight savings time year-round. Well, Congress has not moved on this issue. Actually, the U.S. Senate passed it in 2022. The House never took it up. The U.S. House passed it in 2024. The Senate never picked it up. So I think this is a federal process that's in place that we can take advantage of, and I think other states will follow. We are the #1 state in the nation to do business, and I think if other states want to stay in sync with Georgia, they will, and other states will petition to do the same. With that, Mr. President, I yield the will.
All right, Senator. Senator's yielded. Questions on the adoption of the committee substitute. Is there objection to the adoption of the committee substitute? Hearing none, the committee substitute is adopted. Is there objection to agree to the report of committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? Chair hears none. The report of committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? Chair hears none. The main question is ordered. Questions on the passage of the bill by substitute. All those in favor of the bill will vote yea. All opposed, nay. Secretary, unlock the machine. On the passage of the bills, the yeas are 45 and the nays are 5. And that's the most interesting coalition of nays I've ever seen right there. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed by substitute. Let's take about a 30-minute lunch break. And I know there's some food for the senators in any room. We'll take about a 30-minute lunch break and we'll come back.